Aruba, a paradise in the Caribbean. Turquoise waters, white sand, palm trees swaying in the wind. But behind the postcard beauty lies one of the most haunting mysteries of the modern era. May 30th, 2005. An 18-year-old girl from Mountain Brook, Alabama, vanishes without a trace. Her name was Natalee Holloway. Bright, confident, about to start college, a girl who had her entire life ahead of her. And overnight, she became a symbol, not just of tragedy, but of how America watches tragedy unfold. Natalee had always been the kind of person people remembered. She was the honor student, the one who always smiled, the one teachers adored. Her friends said she had this way of lighting up a room, not loud, just warm, effortless. That summer, she was preparing to start pre-med at the University of Alabama. But before college, there was one last adventure, a senior class trip to Aruba. It was meant to be celebration sunshine, ocean, freedom. 200 students landed on the island that week. They checked into hotels, hit the beaches, and partied late into the night. For 5 days, everything was perfect, and then came the final night. Sunday, May 29th. That night, Natalee and her friends went to a popular nightclub called Carlos and Charlie's. It was loud, crowded, filled with laughter and music. That's where she met him, 17-year-old Joran van der Sloot. Tall, charming, a local Dutch student who knew how to impress tourists. He wasn't alone. 2 brothers, Deepak and Satish Kalpo, were with him. They talked, danced, drank, laughed. Nothing seemed unusual. Around 1:30 in the morning, Natalee was seen leaving the club with them. That was the last time anyone saw her alive. When her friends gathered the next morning for their flight home, Natalee wasn't there. Her luggage was still in her room, her passport on the dresser, her bed untouched. Something was wrong. Within hours, her mother, Beth Holloway, was on the first flight from Alabama to Aruba. When she arrived, she didn't wait for the police. She started her own search. She went to the hotel, to the nightclub, to the local police station. She asked one question over and over. "Where is my daughter?" The island responded. Locals, tourists, even soldiers joined in. Helicopters hovered over beaches. Divers searched reefs and coves. The entire country seemed to be looking for her. But there was no sign, no body, no clue, nothing. The 3 young men Natalee had last been seen with were quickly brought in for questioning: Joran van der Sloot, Deepak Kalpo, and Satish Kalpo. Their stories changed. At first, they said they dropped her off at her hotel. Then they said they left her by the beach. Then they blamed each other. Each version contradicted the last. And yet, there was no evidence, no proof of what really happened. While the investigation stumbled, the story exploded. American television networks latched onto it. CNN, Fox News, NBC. Every night, Natalee's face filled the screen. Beth Holloway stood before cameras, pleading for help, describing her daughter in heartbreaking detail, and the world couldn't look away. It became more than a search. It became a spectacle. Reporters flew to Aruba. Cameras followed every lead, every rumor. It wasn't just a missing person case anymore. It was an obsession, a mystery America couldn't stop watching. But behind the headlines was a family living a nightmare. Every false tip, every new rumor, every empty promise, another wound that wouldn't heal. Beth Holloway refused to give up. She met with police, interrogated suspects, even confronted Joran van der Sloot herself. He looked her in the eye. He lied. Again and again, weeks turned into months, then into years. The beaches were searched, wells were drained, psychics, private investigators, volunteers. Everyone had a theory, and yet, nothing. It was as if Natalee had vanished into the ocean itself. But the story didn't end there. In 2008, Joran gave a televised interview where he claimed she had died accidentally. That she collapsed on the beach, that he panicked and disposed of her body. The next day, he retracted it, said he made it up for attention. Every time he spoke, hope rose and shattered. Then, 5 years later, in 2010, the world heard his name again, this time thousands of miles away, in Lima, Peru. He had been arrested for murdering a young woman named Stephanie Flores. The crime was eerily similar, a night of flirting, followed by violence, deception, and death. That case ended in conviction. He was sentenced to 28 years in a Peruvian prison, and for many that confirmed what they'd suspected all along, that Natalee's killer had finally been caught, even if justice had come in another country. Still, Beth Holloway never stopped fighting. She kept Natalee's name alive in every interview, every appearance, every anniversary. And finally, after nearly 2 decades of silence, came the closest thing to closure. In 2023, Joran van der Sloot was extradited to the United States, not for murder but for extortion. He had tried to blackmail the Holloway family, promising to reveal the location of Natalee's body for $250,000 in court, he confessed, not officially to murder, but to killing her after she refused his advances. He said he disposed of her body, and again, he apologized. But there was no peace, because even now, Natalee Holloway has never been found. No grave, no remains, just words from a man who has lied more times than anyone can count. What this case became, beyond the headlines, beyond the courtroom, was a reflection of something deeper. It showed how grief can turn into obsession, how a family's pain can become a nation's entertainment, and how easily empathy and spectacle blur when the cameras stay on too long. For years, critics asked why this story, why Natalee's story, captured so much attention while thousands of others went unheard. Some called it the missing white woman syndrome, the idea that the media amplifies certain victims while ignoring others. It wasn't Natalee's fault, but her story forced America to confront its own bias, its own fascination with beauty and tragedy. Through it all, Beth Holloway kept her focus on one thing, her daughter. She said, "If I can't bring her home, I'll make sure her voice never fades." And she did. 2 decades later, the island of Aruba still remembers. Locals still talk about that night. Tourists still visit the spot where she was last seen. And every so often, another theory surfaces. Another claim of bones found, a confession, a new lead. Every time, hope rises, and every time, the waves take it back. Natalee Holloway was 18 years old. She never made it home. But her story changed how we talk about missing people, how we see the power and the danger of media. It became a lesson in empathy, in accountability, and in the limits of truth. If you stand on the beaches of Aruba at sunset, the horizon glows gold and red. The wind is soft, the waves whisper against the sand, and somewhere beyond that endless blue, the questions still linger. What really happened that night? Where is Natalee? And why did the world become so obsessed with her disappearance? Maybe because she reminded us of someone we know, a daughter, a sister, a friend. Maybe because deep down we can't stand a story with no ending. Or maybe because even in paradise, darkness hides beneath the surface. Natalee Holloway's story isn't just about what was lost. It's about how we remember. It's about a mother's love that refused to fade. And it's about a mystery that became a mirror, reflecting both our compassion and our obsession 18 years old, full of promise, gone without a trace. And to this day, no one truly knows where she is. But her name still echoes. Natalee Holloway, a girl who went to Aruba for celebration and became a symbol of everything fragile about innocence.